Hey guys, thanks for tuning into Where's Next Adventure podcast. Sorry, I just wanted to share that around a little bit before I came on because I didn't want to be doing that while I was talking to you. I just want to say again, thank you guys for supporting this podcast and the nonprofit. I absolutely love the fact that I'm providing something that is actually helping somebody. I was nervous when I first started Warriors Next Adventure. Like, who's going to want to jump into that? Who cares? I'm just some dude. But it's been turning out really well. Today I have on a guest. Her name is Margo. She was a master sergeant in the Air Force, and she got out and now she helps people get through some trying times. So we're gonna have a good convo about that. I'll bring her on in a second. Again, just so you guys know, August 14th at the Gunlick Law Speedway, we have a mental health and suicide prevention night, and we are the beneficiaries for Warriors Next Adventure. I'm pretty excited to check this thing out. I need like one or two more volunteers to come up there with me. You get to get into the races free. There's pit passes, but I need you guys walking around selling raffle tickets. The more raffle tickets we sell, the more donations come back to Warriors Next Adventure. Also, I get to wave the checkered flag for the start of the races, which is pretty cool. I wasn't like a huge race fan, but I grew up racing, racing. And then when I was in the military, I also raced at the drag strip every Thursday, pretty much. So racing is something I really enjoy. This is dirt track racing, so it should be pretty cool. And then we also get to present a trophy to the winner, and that trophy is dedicated to all veterans who have died by suicide. Also, March, goddamn, my dates are all jacked up. August 31st through September 4th, me and Will Jansen, and we probably have a crew of two more joining us. We are going to canoe the entire distance of the St. Croix River, which that is right around 169 miles. So that should be interesting. After talking to Bryant from Row or Die, 169 is nothing compared to rowing a boat across the Atlantic. But hey, should be fun. Okay, I'm going to bring on my guest, and I'm going to introduce her, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself. So here we go. Hey, Margo, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you, Nick?
Good. Hey, so we met through how did you find WNA initially?
So Saul, my friend Saul, who's in Colorado,
Okay.
he shared a post where you were looking for people to interview on your podcast. And so he had tagged a bunch of people and I saw it. And then I just sent you an email. And I was like,
Oh, that's
hey,
right.
I'm available. I'm just kind of getting into this space with podcasts.
Yeah.
So if you want to put my name in the hat, cool. If not, that's cool too.
Well, see, what really, because a lot of people asked. I have about 75 people waiting in line. So there's a lot of people who are interested in being on, which is great, and I can't wait to get all these people on. I'm trying to do at least 2 to 3 a week if I can, and then I'm slacking on releasing them on Spotify, but I got to get on that today. But what really made me want to have you on is the amount that you comment on a lot of the podcasts that we're doing, and I love where your mindset is, because the mindset of understanding that you have all the control, and life is your choice. I love that, and there's a lot more that you've commented on, and we've kind of talked about a little bit, like when I was on with Elijah.
Right.
Tell me that wasn't an inspiring podcast. That
That
was
was
awesome.
awesome. That was
Yeah,
so
I loved
fun.
it. Elijah's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. He
Yeah.
he just randomly added me on Facebook and we start talking, and we both
Okay.
just like, hey, this is what I do. He's like, oh shit, this is what I do. I'm like, I need you on the
Where my
podcast.
mindset is. Oh, that's where my mindset is. And that was
Exactly.
really, yeah, that's what really got me
Well,
going with you as well.
exactly. And I'm trying to get away from the whole I, I hate the whole disgruntled veteran thing. I hate that.
Agreed.
You can be a veteran and be a good dude. You don't have to be
Yeah.
pissed off all the time. I want people to get away from that because it just makes us look like a bunch of assholes. I don't like that at all.
Right.
So talking to somebody like you, I think is going to be really beneficial for a lot of veterans. So real quick, why don't you explain what you did in the Air Force, how long you're in, what was your rank, what'd you do?
Yeah. So I joined in 95, long time ago in 95. And I retired
I
in
was
2000.
7.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Nick.
I'm just messing with you.
So, yeah. So I spent 23 years in the Air Force. You were asking me like what did I do? And
Yeah.
my career field, AFSC, was services, which is now FSS. So, but it was so diverse because I felt like whenever I achieved something at that moment or at that base, I was always like, okay, what's next? What's the next level? Where can I go? And I started at Andrews Air Force Base, and I was
Andrews
in
is in DC, right?
Ptsd. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny because I make like a whole loop around because I ended up at Andrews again. So I was working lodging, fitness center, so services basically. I mean, you know what they are:
Mhm.
DFAC or chow hall, as some may say, but we don't like that. It's offensive. DFAC
Because
lodging,
we're the
fitness.
Air Force, the
Yeah,
dining
I
facility.
know it's a dining experience, a dining facility. So I was there and then became a tech school instructor. And I did that for 4 years. I loved it, loved it.
So,
That was at
did
time
you
when
teach services tech school?
I did. Yeah, I
So,
did.
what was
And
that
then
like?
it was cool because, I mean, I've only been in the Air Force for 3 years. And so I knew what mentoring was, but I didn't because I was still an airman myself. And here I was, 3 years as a tech school instructor, thrown in with like very experienced tech sergeants and some master sergeants. And so you kind
Mhm.
of like sink or swim in that environment.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of where I really got my feet wet with mentoring airmen, of course. I mean, I think um, my EPR said something like 3,000 airmen in 4 years that,
Wow.
taking them through tech school. So then I specialized there in being a fitness instructor as well and was able to
Nice.
travel and teach the fitness course too. So that was really cool. And after that, I went to Charleston and I worked in fitness because my track, like in services, we all have like a track.
Mhm.
Some are food, some are primarily, lodging. And my track was fitness. And so that's what I did for a very long time.
So
Um,
you actually helped airmen with fitness as well?
I did. And well, I helped the airmen. Basically, it was helping the services airmen who were in the fitness centers
Mhm.
increase their skills in fitness. And so
Nice.
I got personal trainer certified, and I deployed. Also doing fitness. So well, 2 times. I've only deployed 3 times, which is unheard of because usually, I mean, I have peers that have deployed 13, 15 times. And so I only had deployed 3 times. Two is
Yeah, I
for
was in
and
6, I deployed 4. A
exactly. I
lot.
mean,
I was
so that's
security forces though, so it's a little
yeah,
different.
yeah, a little bit different, but still. Um, so I was at Charleston doing fitness, and then I got hired, or actually, It's funny. I was hired on to be an NCO instructor at Hickam,
Mm.
but I had
Oh, and Hickam? That would have been
yeah.
terrible. That would have been
Well, wait
so
till I get
bad.
into later my story. You'll
Hickam is
really
in Hawaii for people
yes,
that don't know.
it is. Yeah, I was hired as an NCO instructor, but in the process, they discovered I had a enlistment bonus, and so they took that away. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do?" Well, they sent me on a hardship anyway to Hawaii,
Yeah,
and
oh,
Hawaii
you poor
basically
thing.
that's where I got into protocol. So protocol. Then I was an enlisted aide for a 2-star general when I met him. He went to 3 stars, went to 4 stars, came back to Hickam,
Nice.
and he was COMPACAF, so he's a Pacific Air Force's commander. And then I went back to my career field in services for a little bit, came here to England, right back into fitness, right back into protocol, and then I retired. And that's 23 years in a nutshell of what I did.
What base did you get stationed at in the UK?
RF Mildenhall.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask a really dumb question, and I hope there's other people that don't know as well, so I don't feel so stupid. So is what the hell do we call the UK? Is it just called the UK, or do we call it like England? Is it London? Like what the hell is it? I know London's a city, but
Yeah,
I'm so confused as to what we're supposed to call that
it
place.
is
Like, is
confusing.
it British? Is it Great Britain? Is it the UK? What is it?
So it's the United Kingdom, it's UK, and
Okay.
in that is England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland.
Okay,
So
so where's England? Is that like where London is and everything?
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
Scotland. I just last year, and again, please don't think I'm stupid for this. I used to think Scotland was a giant island off the coast of England. I didn't know it was like literally right
Part
there.
of the island.
So like when I was watching Braveheart, I'm like, man, how'd they get there so fast? And I was like, oh, dummy,
Didn't
because
know
it's
it
the
was there.
same place.
Yeah.
Like I knew about Ireland because my family's from Ireland, and we actually we have a castle in our family history. It was actually on the History Channel for the most haunted places in the world.
Very
It's
cool.
Huntington Castle over in County Carlow in Ireland. And my dream is to go hike there. But
Mhm.
yeah, thank you. That geography of that place is just confusing. I don't know what to call it.
Well, and some say they're British, and then others say, "No, I'm English," and I'm like, "Okay, got
Sure. Thanks.
it." Yeah.
That's cool. So you were in Mildenhall. Every time we went overseas, we'd fly into Ireland. I always wanted to fly into the UK, but I guess England. God damn, that's gonna screw me up. But we always flew into either Cork or we flew into Shannon.
Shannon, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it there. Oh God, having a beer on the way back from Afghanistan was the greatest. They came up to us and said, "Only 2 beers." God damn it, we had like 9. I think half of us were hammered before we got on that plane.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Some people don't drink and they still buy their beers, and then they end up somewhere else.
Yeah, true. That's true. We never did that in Qatar, ever.
No, never.
We'd go to. I was in Asalea in 07. That was a base that was maybe like 20 minutes outside of Doha.
Yeah.
And we had 3 saloons on the base, right?
Yeah.
So they would scan your ID and you're only allowed 3. So we'd have like 2 guys that weren't drinking one night. They would get beers and then give it to us. So we just like maximize the amount of alcohol, which could get you in a lot of trouble. So don't do it.
Never.
But good times.
Acupuncture, and we love the surf and turf. I think they would do it like every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday? Is that right?
That Chili's by the poolside was nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, it was a rough deployment. The Dairy Queen ran out of mint ice cream at least once a week. I was so sad.
The Army was so mad. Like they would come there. Like if you had a soldier that had hernia surgery, they would come to Qatar and recover. And the whole time they're just like, I need to get back to my unit. This is bullshit. You know, who calls this a deployment? And I was like,
yeah,
sorry. I mean,
I to be honest, like when I got back, I told my UDM, my unit deployment manager, I was like, don't ever send me on some shit like that again. It sucked. I mean, it was nice because it was chill, but it's 120 degrees and you're in the desert and you're not fighting. You're just sitting there, like checking IDs. It was terrible. And then the next deployment, I was doing convoys in Iraq. So I guess I got what I wanted.
Be careful what you ask for. Yeah, I did.
I know, right?
At the deed. So.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Epigenetics was nice. Oh god, that Bud Light bar that they built. I think it was a Fox Sports bar or something like that.
That was in 07.
That was at the end of 07.
Okay.
And then
end of 08.
Okay. Yeah, it was nice. We flew there for a little bit after I think Iraq. I think we flew down it was either that or Kuwait. I don't remember. I've been to so many damn countries I forget. So when you got out in 2018, what pathway did you take? How was getting out of the military for you?
So it was interesting because a year before, well, right when I hit the button to retire, I had a completely different plan than what happened when I actually got out. And that was because it was pretty much one thing, circumstances changed in my life. And that was my youngest son came to live with us permanently. So that wasn't the plan. That happened. And so I had to redirect the plans of what I was going to do, because if he's going to go to school on base, I needed to have a full-time position in order for him to go to a DOD school, or DODEA school, they call it now, without paying tuition. So I was like, okay, so that's when I found AFES, and that was my transition. So originally my transition was I was about to put 3 months down payment on a place in Portugal and go there and chill for a few months and then figure stuff out after that. So,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I had the place picked out, and I mean, life changes, and we take the changes as they come. And so, when he made really that decision to come here and live with us, I had to change. I mean, literally, like I was that person that sat in TAPS like, I don't need a resume. I'm not going to work, because I wasn't going to work. I mean, my husband's retired from the Marine Corps, and he has been since 2010. So I wasn't going to work, and we were, like I said, we were just going to chill. So now it's like I went to TAPS again because like, I think I need to pay attention to this stuff about getting a job. And, by the grace of God, I, met my colleague who's now, and she was explaining to me the process about transitioning in the UK, working for AFES. Because do you remember, a lot of times people would retire and they would sort of create the position they were going to retire and then become a civilian and do the same job. Well, they did away with retirees being able to do that, and they put this, you couldn't work.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you think that would be a smart thing to do. You have somebody with the experience and the skills, and you need that someone in that position. Why not take somebody getting out? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So they said, oh, sorry, you can't get a GS or an AF position on base until 6 months after your actual retirement date.
Why?
So it
It
was,
doesn't
what is it,
make any
policy?
sense.
Well, it's funny because the policy had already existed, and
Mhm.
then there was an exception to policy.
Okay.
Well, then the exception was taken off, and then it went back to the original policy is how it happened. So with AFEs, with the exchange, you don't have that waiting period. And so I was actually working on terminal leave, and I was so bitter about that. I didn't get to take, with the terminal leave that I have, but I was like, it's
Yeah.
all good. It's a, means to an end. And, you can't, I just couldn't take away the opportunity and be grateful enough to have my son, come here and live with us. So,
Yeah.
so I was working overnight shift at the Express. So I was like, went from like 100 miles an hour to, being a cashier at the Express. But I knew eventually that is going to be working towards a full-time position.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
I did that. I worked in the jewelry department, and then human resources position came up, full-time position, exactly what I needed. I applied, I got hired, and
Nice.
that's how it was. So
Are you still doing that now, or what do you do now?
yeah, I'm still doing that now. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so explain to everybody what Cup of Creative Tea is. There's a Facebook page. You'll see a banner on the bottom. It's impossible not to see it scrolling by. So click on that and go check it out. What exactly are they getting themselves into?
Oh, there's always a story behind things. So
Of course.
yeah. So being an enlisted aide, they sent me to culinary school in New York, and we were trained as pro chefs, as they call it. And
Nice.
so we did all the events for the generalist house, and in protocol, you oversee events. And I, really grew to love cooking and baking and all that good stuff, and doing the entertaining piece of it as well. I mean, I really enjoyed that. And so before I retired, I was working with the Exceptional Family Member Program coordinator, and we got to talking, and I had just bought a ton of British crockery. So that teacups and all this other stuff. Anyway, so she's like, well, do you think, we have like once a month, we have a program or like an event for EFMP families. And she says, would you do tea parties? And I was like, yeah, sure. That'd be great. So I was doing the tea parties, and it just, everything came about because I had gone to, I knew I was retiring here. So I went to like a networking event in London.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary Vee actually was the headliner there.
Oh, get out of here. I'd love to watch Gary Vee talk.
So I was like, yeah, I
For
waited
any of you
2 days.
guys listening who don't know who Gary Vee is, if you're even thinking about starting a business or you want to be successful in business, go just listen to everything he says. You might not agree with everything, but
Right.
the reason why WNA has kicked off like it has, I'm using his marketing strategies. I haven't gone to marketing school. I listen to
Right.
Gary Vee.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's amazing that you actually got to listen to him talk in person.
Well, even more
Jealous.
amazing. So I waited 2 days, right? Because I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Gary Vee. It's going to be amazing. And then this gentleman got on stage named Ryan Pinnock. And
What was his name?
Ryan Pinnock.
I was just talking to my girlfriend about him this morning.
Ryan Pinnock? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's where
I just resonated so much with what Ryan, he did an hour talk, and it was basically just, talking about how, you can manage your thoughts, feelings, and emotions better by really unleashing your genius, is what he says, unleashing your genius. And that's going into your unconscious mind and managing that. And then coming from a space of, learning how to manage those thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and give energy, not to the bad stuff, but transmute that into like performing at your higher self, not your lower self. And, like I said, he did a talk. He says, if you're interested in workshops, go to the back of the room. I like jetted to the back of the
just
room,
ran.
signed up. I got 2 tickets. I said, I don't know who's coming with me, but I'm gonna get 2 tickets because I want someone to go through this journey.
Yeah, he kind of walks the line of epigenetics. Have you dove into epigenetics yet?
Not at all. No.
Good God. So if you like Ryan Pinnock, dive into epigenetics. You want to get on either Dr. Bruce Lipton. Again, my girlfriend woke me up this morning, surprised me, and we were laying in bed talking, and this is the kind of shit we talk about. A lot of people might think like we're a boring couple, but we sit there and all we talk about is like, brain energy, meditation, mindfulness, all kinds of stuff. So we were actually talking about we were talking a little bit about epigenetics, and we were talking about Bruce Lipton. Now, Bruce Lipton is he. My daughter's in the background singing. He talks about epigenetics, and he's kind of the front runner of epigenetics. But when you watch all of his videos are somewhat the same. So to get an understanding of epigenetics, he's a great person to listen to. But move on to other people after you listen to one or two of his, because a lot of them are the same and repetitive. But then Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yes.
he's another guy who's really big on epigenetics, and he
Okay.
talks about meditation and mindfulness and creating that positive outlook in life by literally hacking into your brain and telling yourself, like what have you read my 6 principles to improve your state of mind yet? So it's a blog. I'll send it to you. But it's the 6 principles that I created after 2015. Again, like many of you know, I had a suicide attempt in 2015, and I did a complete overhaul of my whole self. And I took my brain and I pretty much threw it out. And I said, okay, I'm starting over. And one of the things that I started doing was actually really reading a lot about mindfulness. And I got into Buddhism in 2016, and I created these 6 steps, these 6 principles. So one of the principles is look forward to a positive future, right? So what you're doing is you're taking your brain and you're saying, this is what will happen. And then like I said the other day about my Warriors Ranch, live as if the future is tomorrow. If you create that positive future, you can at least, you know the destination. If you don't know where the destination is, how are you going to make a path? Other than that, you're just wandering.
Yes.
So you should create that path. But Joe Dispenza is really big on that. And a lot of that has to do with epigenetics and creating your environment.
Right. Yep. So, Joe Dispenza, this is what this is kind of what I had figured out on my own, is that Joe Dispenza is coming more from the scientific aspect of consciousness. Ryan Pinnock comes more from a philosophical aspect of consciousness.
And Ryan Pinnock is somebody I haven't dove into yet. So, like I said, my girlfriend just told me about him today. So I got some research to do.
Yes. You
Why are you naked? Good God. Go. My 7-year-old's autistic. So, like, out of nowhere, she'll just come out of the room, just bug ass naked. And now she's jumping on my bed. Jesus Christ. Hey, buddy. Okay. As long as she doesn't poop in my bed, we're good to go.
That's right.
Having an autistic child is fun. So Ryan Pinnock, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ryan. So, I bought the workshop, went to the workshop. Now I've completed, pretty much completed his certification program. But going back, type of creativity was that's what I create. What I love is having conversation with people and then asking them the questions to lead to, like, where do you create? Like, where are your gifts and talents, and what can you do with those? And it can be from simple to very complex, but to walk away from conversations like that, where people go, wow, if we hadn't had this conversation, I would have never thought of these things. And that's amazing to me, because it just opens their minds up to their potential. And they could have been having a crap day, sitting at their job, like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And you have that conversation, and you spark that creativity, and then their minds just start going in so many different directions.
I call it jumping into the fog. Like, imagine yourself up on a cliff and there's just a bunch of fog there and you just jump. Fuck it.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? If you're not happy where you're at, jump. Go do something else. I hate the mindset that, like, well, I can't. I got this. Well, you're just making excuses. So, if you can't just quit right now, start working on the path to what you want to do. You don't have to be stuck in that 9-to-5 job. You don't have to be doing all that stuff. Anybody can create what their future is going to be, but you have to lay out the plans. And like you said,
9-to-5, if you're in the 9-to-5, that's fine too, because it doesn't mean you can't still work on your vision and your purpose and your passions.
Well, there's the saying that, never go work 8 hours for somebody and not go home and work on yourself. You're not, what was the word I'm thinking about? It's like you're not lazy, you're uninspired, right? So you need to find inspiration. I was just having a conversation with my cousin, Natalie. We used to call her Muffin. I try not to anymore because that just sounds weird. So I was talking to Natalie, and I saw a post on her Facebook. So Natalie, if you're listening, she said something about wanting to start something. And I maybe I'm wrong, but I could sense a little hesitation, right? And so I sent her a message and I was like, hey, so if you want, I can be a little intense sometimes when it comes to motivation and,
Yes.
you know, inspiration, stuff like that. And I know that turns some people off. I don't fucking care. I'm not going to stop doing it.
That's okay. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
I told her, I was like, listen, you know, there's so many reasons why you need to do what you're thinking about doing. I don't even know what it is. I'm assuming it's starting a business. But I was like, I am not an extremely motivated person, believe it or
Mhm.
not. I'm
Mhm.
not I don't have all of this motivation that I put out there, right? So when I'm always talking about motivation, I have to find it, right? I'm
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
most motivated person in the
I
world,
get
but I
that.
find motivation
I
everywhere.
totally get that. I know.
Yeah. Like I was
Yeah,
just
you
listening
got
to
it.
Tony Robbins for the last 3 hours, so we're about to have a
Yeah.
good conversation.
I was listening to him too just before this.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I just, after going through that one workshop, I didn't go to the next workshop for quite a while because I was just in that planning phase of
Hmm.
retiring. And then I retired. I got into doing this full-time job, which is not what I wanted to do, by the way. It
Yeah.
just wasn't my plan. I mean, my plan was always to retire and not work and do things. I mean, my husband and I, we always have a plan, like we say A through G. Okay, which one are we picking today? Because he's a tattoo artist,
Yeah.
and we've gone
Oh,
everywhere
nice.
from having a tattoo cafe to, I mean, he's a master
That's
builder for
actually a
life.
really good idea.
I know, isn't it great? Like we had
Yeah.
the whole plan of, like, the middle would be sort of like the focus area of the tattoo, and then you have plexiglass, and then you have around it like tables, and there's a cafe, you can get coffee or snacks or whatever,
Nice.
like a waiting area, but you can still see your friend getting tattooed, and it's just
Yeah.
that was one of our
Kind of
concepts
like
early
a
on.
jujitsu studio or something like that with like a waiting room or something along those lines. You'd
Where you
sit and
can eat and
watch.
watch people beat each other up.
Yeah, it's fun. Choking your friends is fun. If you don't train jujitsu, you should do it.
He would totally agree with you. He did McMap in the Marine
Oh,
Corps.
nice.
So, yeah,
My
he
favorite is when we have a Marine come in who's never trained jujitsu. He's like, yeah, I was a McMap instructor. And then they get choked out in like 10 seconds. Like, what the fuck is this jujitsu stuff? It's like, because McMap has a little bit of jujitsu in it. But
yeah,
when you go against somebody who's really training jujitsu hardcore, McMap it's pretty quickly. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, you could beat somebody with McMap fairly easy because a lot of Marines train McMap only to the point where they know enough.
yeah.
Can you stop? Knock it off. She's over here naked, just squat on the dog's head.
Oh no.
She's a nutcase. So
Yeah.
is the cool thing about being a tattoo artist is like with my friend Mark, Minnesota's locked down right now. He went to
Yeah.
South Dakota and he's doing tattoos. You literally can work anywhere because your
Oh
skill
wow.
is right here,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So he,
That's pretty cool.
we there's a lot of creativity between the two of us.
Hmm.
And when I was doing that after like in my transition, retiring during the tea parties, that was going to be it. I was going to do tea parties, and then I was going to have some light discussion, about creativity. And so that's where it started. But I just rebranded Cup of Creativity, and it's completely different. And that's just
Hmm.
the evolution of Cup of Creativity. It came with the evolution of myself.
Yeah.
And it was important to do that. That I know that I needed to do that. Not really. I mean, when you're in the end result of your vision, and you really have to you learn to manage and master consciousness. You learn
Hmm.
to understand that synchronicity will bring the things and the people into your life that help you evolve yourself, evolve your business, evolve
Hmm.
relationship. I mean, just a whole bunch of things. So there was a
Well, flat
gentleman
out,
who,
mindset is everything.
yeah,
Mindset has
absolutely.
everything to do with life and being happy, and a lot of that stuff is a choice.
Hmm. Yeah. So a gentleman Zoe came into the picture, and we
Hmm.
started talking about rebranding. And he did the graphic arts for it. And it's interesting because now Cup of Creativity is just it's completely different. So you see the TEA at the end, right?
Yeah.
And cuppa is like when a British person says, "Oh, come over for a cuppa." That's come over for a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever.
They just say, come
And
over for a cuppa.
A cuppa, yeah, cuppa.
Oh, that's weird.
And
I never
so I put
heard that.
T on the end, and the T has really, it's transformed into transition to experience alchemy, which alchemy, you learn is turning lead to gold. And that's
Yeah.
really, what we do, and we can evolve ourselves, because you start with lead. I mean, I didn't get to the part yet where I said that after I retired, I really, and I say I romanticized retirement. Oh, my freedom, it's gonna be great, all this. And
You hear
then
that from everybody. Everybody that retires is like, oh, I can't wait. And they're like, shit,
what do I
what do I
do
do
now?
now?
I would send messages to my husband. I was lost. Like, what I say is that you're in this structure, right, for 23 years. Even when you PCS, where you're going, where you're going to work. You have contacts in place for you already. So you don't really have to make friends. You do, but it's going to happen. There's so much certainty in there.
Yeah.
And we're addicted to certainty as human beings, and so that's great. But then when I retired, it's like someone pulled the plug. My eyes were, it's like I was finding my way around in the dark in many areas. Career wise, it's not really what I want to do. Emotionally, mentally,
Yeah. I was a
because
pizza delivery boy.
see,
I'm fucking rough.
did you expect that? Did you
No,
go
it was
at one
terrible.
point? Did you go, what the hell am I doing? Like, this
Oh,
is not.
yeah. You ever seen the movie Waiting?
No.
So it's a
Husband
funny
probably
movie
has.
with it's a funny movie with Dane Cook, and they all work at a restaurant or some shit, and they're like in their mid 20s, late 20s, and one of the kids has an offer for being a manager, and the GM is just a douche, and all he talks about is being a manager and glorifying being a manager. You're in charge, blah blah blah, and then
Yeah.
finally he just quits. And so I was in manager training at a pizza delivery place. So I was just
Right.
like, okay. Eventually, I would like to own my own pizza place. They used to call me Papa Ron's in the military because I made bomb pizza, and
I
I made
remember
these things called I make these things called sushi roll ups. Oh, they're amazing. Pizza sushi. Sorry. So anyway, as I was going through manager training, and I was talking to one of the managers. I was like, "How long you been a manager?" He's like, "Oh, I've been a manager for like 4 years, man. It's nice. I make like $12.50 an hour." I'm like, "Yeah, I quit. I quit that day. I was like, fuck this. No thanks." So I was a carpenter, I auto mechanic, bouncer, all kinds of stuff, odd jobs. I somehow got the job as a foreman of a deconstruction site and a couple other things, and I kept getting fired and kept quitting, and I wasn't good here. And then I found the state
Right.
patrol, and I've kind of been on the right path ever since.
Yeah. But you went from being a cop, which very high speed, right? I'm sure you
hmm
put everything into it. And then, I
I
watched
loved
your
being a
story.
cop. I actually
Yeah,
really
I watched
liked.
your story on YouTube, and that was, I mean, I was choked at watching your story on YouTube.
Thank
And
you.
so you go from that environment and that structure, and just, all the adrenaline, to then you find yourself as a pizza delivery driver, and it messes with you here. It messes with you
Oh,
in
it
your heart.
destroys your ego.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And so that transition, some people take it very well, and they do great, and others struggle. I've spoken to more people that have struggled than I've spoken to more people who had a smooth transition.
Yeah, it's
Um,
out there. There's plenty of people who do just fine when they get out. They have a plan.
yeah,
They're happy. I know a lot of veterans who are very well off.
yeah,
So it's not impossible. So
no, no,
one thing I would like to do is get a hold of these guys before they get out. So
yeah,
kind of like what you're doing. So this year I was supposed to do a tour around the United States. It was called PTSD versus Jiu Jitsu, and I was trying to get veterans to start training Jiu Jitsu. And one of my stops was actually going to be Malmstrom Air Force Base, and I got a hold of the first sergeants for all of the security forces squadrons, and my goal was to have every single cop on that base come to that event. So my projections were like 300-400 people, and so
yeah.
my goal is to inject myself into the Air Force to help them with resiliency training, so I could tell my story, give my 6 principles, and all that stuff.
We
I'm
are so
killing it.
on the same track.
There we go. Maybe we
Yeah,
need to tour together. I
yeah.
don't know.
Why not?
I feel like you know I have a lot to offer, and by talking to you, in the past, and then now it's you obviously do too, and so there's plenty of people out there who have a lot to offer, and so my goal, I would have had like 300 people, and so that would have been my first big speech, right?
Yeah,
I was an
right.
instructor as well in the military. I was a pre-deployment trainer for base
Okay.
populace,
Mm-hmm.
so like services and finance, all the people who were getting ready to deploy that weren't technically in like a combat role.
Yeah.
So I would teach them, basics like actions on contacts. A
Okay.
lot of those guys were going to be augmentees to like,
Yes.
walk around with TNs. What do we call them? TCNs?
TCN.
right?
Sorry, yeah.
There you go.
TCN.
Third country nationals.
Yeah.
So I would teach them, right? And so speaking in front of people has been pretty easy for me ever since then, because I'm teaching colonels, and there was a 1-star general in one of my classes once. That was intimidating. Unfortunately, I had a colonel come up. Funny story, real quick. Sorry, I'm full of. I'm the definition of an Irish guy. I'm going to tell a long story. We had a colonel in the class, and I was like, "Hey, I need a volunteer," and I was teaching handcuffing and searching. So security forces searches. If you've never been searched by a security forces guy, you're lucky, because it's borderline molestation. It's pretty. It can be great or bad, whatever, however you're feeling. So I asked, "Hey, I need a volunteer." In the military, you never volunteer for something.
No.
So this colonel's like, "Oh, I'll do it." And I was like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yes, sir. I can, if anybody else can do it." I was like, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you sure? Have you ever seen a search? He's like, "Oh, we'll be fine." So I get to the arms, the chest, the belt line, the legs, everything like that. And we do what's called the left-right squeeze, right? So what you could assume is not very fun.
Right.
So we have hands out, and I'm behind him. So I'm explaining this. So, okay, now what we got to do is just to check certain areas, that people could be hiding stuff. And he kind of looks back, he's like, "What areas?" And I was like, "Here we go. You go up, underneath, from behind, right? So you go underneath the ass, you grab the left side of the balls, the right side of the balls, and then you squeeze, right? Because you got to make sure there's nothing up there. And it fucking hurts, because you're supposed to squeeze. And I obliged the colonel. He volunteered. And then we do what's called the saw. And the saw is fun. So you come up right up the ass crack. So when he was done, he's like, "I feel violated." I was like, "I told you, sir." I was like, "I told you." I double checked, triple checked. You still wanted to do it. So he went and sat down, and everybody in the class was fucking dying laughing. This guy's limping back to his seat. And I was like, "See, never volunteer in the Air Force." It was great. But like, so that has gotten me to the point where it's not hard for me to speak in front of people anymore. Plus, I'm a 911 dispatcher. I talk to people all day. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why I think I would be valuable resource to the security forces guys, especially. I've been working with the Brave Badge Initiative. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
No.
It's a bunch of active duty security forces guys that started like a suicide prevention page. They call it the Brave Badge Initiative.
Awesome.
And so we've had a few conversations. We did an interview, but it was kind of, I don't really know how to explain it. It wasn't exactly what they were looking for. So we're actually going to redo it, and we're going to kind of do like a question answer kind of thing. And one of my big pushes on that is trying to say, "Hey, I'm trying to reach out." So I've had Chief Master Sergeant from Ellsworth reach out, and then I got invited to go to Grand Forks to do a speech in front of their guys, as well as set up a booth for the air show. But of course, oh shit! Hey, no, come here. Sorry, she's got a pen. She's coloring on my wall. And it's a Sharpie.
Oh no.
That's gonna be fun to clean. God damn it. She draws the cutest smiley faces though, so it's like, do I get mad? Do I,
No, how can you, right?
But yeah, so I again, we need to talk about the summit a little bit too later, but we'll get back to that. So anyway, I'm sorry. My long drawn out stories.
Totally cool. Totally fine. We said that this is just going to be a conversation, and that's
exactly
what it's going to be. But you mentioned about like transitioning and getting out, and how you want to speak to people that are getting ready to get out. And that's like I said, we are so on track with that, because we go through TAPS, the transition program, and we learn.
Come here. She got another pen. Where do you find these things? I'm so sorry. Hey, knock it off, dude. She's on something right now. She's pissed off, so I'm not paying attention to her. I actually never went through TAPS.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't know what it was. Everybody's talking about TAPS. I was like, "What the fuck is TAPS?" Like, I went to one class to tell me how to out progress. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. It's it's good, right? But they're missing a piece, and that piece is, how do you mentally and emotionally transition from being in the military to now going into civilian life? And it's not about, it's great. You learn how to do resume, you do mock interview, you learn about your benefits and, what's next after, I mean, your VA claim, and you learn about all that stuff. And I think that is all valuable information. You need
Yeah.
that because
Oh, absolutely.
it will help out with, a lot of transition needs for, like I said, if you're going to go and into another career. But they just miss the piece where they say, hey, by the way, you may start feeling, how, like, so I was search and recovery, right?
Nice.
And, they brief you before, like there was a F-18 crash that was here, and they always take you to a room and they brief you. This is what you may see. I mean, we're looking for body parts,
Hmm.
and, this is how you may feel. They do a pre and a post, right? Why don't they do that when we transition out? Like, you
Well,
might
not
start
only that,
feeling
like 6 months later,
that too. What
because when a lot of the times and I guarantee you, any combat veteran will agree with me here. When you get back, you go through all these classes, all these like, oh, are you okay? You okay? Like, God, fuck you! I just want to go bang my wife and go ride my car. I don't want to be here, right? And that's all that's in your mind, right? You don't want to think
well,
about
not in
your
my
mental
mind,
health.
I mean.
Well, no, but dude, stop. Um, but like that's what's in a lot of people's minds because we just got back from war, right? We want to go drink a beer, we want to go hang out, we don't want to do all this crap. But 6 months down the road, it all comes back because
Yeah.
you're safe, right? When you're safe, um, I have a theory that the reason why there's so much anxiety in this world is because we're so safe and our bodies are used to keeping us alive. And anxiety is one of the ways that our body triggers us to say, hey, dude, something's not right. And when everything's safe, you're ultra aware
Hmm.
at the point where because you just come back from war, right? So when you're at war, you're like everything's going on, but you're just like, meh, I'm just at war. You get bombs going off and shit, and then you go home and it's all first world problems, like
Yeah, it's just
I didn't
different.
charge my battery, or it's like all that stuff. So 6 months down the road is I think would be extremely beneficial to all veterans when they get out of the military is to
Hmm.
do a follow up.
Absolutely. And they don't. There's
Mm-mm.
nothing right now. There is absolutely nothing in place for that. For, and like you said, before in taps or 6 months down the road, it's not there
Mhm.
because my anxiety didn't creep up until, well, it was about 8 months, I guess, down the road, and it was to a point where I was having panic attacks every single day, and I would have them when I was driving, which is really scary because, you know,
Mhm.
I felt, you've had a panic attack before,
Oh yeah.
tightness in the chest, can't breathe, fuzzy. I mean, you get dizzy. And, if you're driving, that makes that it piles on, right?
Yeah,
To
you got to
get
pull over sometimes.
anxiety.
It's rough.
And I didn't know where this is. I absolutely caught off guard. I didn't know where this was coming from at all.
Mhm.
And it just got to a point one night where we were out with friends, and I felt like I was getting better, like my panic attacks were getting better. So we went out to dinner with some friends, and halfway through the meal, I started having, just out of the blue. There was no, I mean, I'm used to being in noisy restaurants. I go to concerts,
Mhm.
and everything. It just was weird. So I said to my husband, "You need to get the bill right now, and you need to drive me to the ER." I felt like I was dying. And he kind of looked at me like I was like, I'm not kidding. Like, you need to get the bill right now and drive me to the ER. And he did. And I couldn't walk 6 feet without feeling like I was just going to fall over. And so, they took me in the exam room, and, usual stuff, blood pressure, ask you questions. And they said, you're having a panic attack. And what? Like, it not, a lot of people say, when I tell the story, people say, you're like the strongest person I know, and you're always, that leader that was always helping others.
It
That
just
it
creeps up
doesn't
on you sometimes, and you're just
it
not
doesn't
expecting it.
matter. It just, yeah, it just creeps up. And so they did blood tests. They wanted to test everything. I was having a lot of tension in my neck, going up my
Mhm.
head, and I have migraines. I suffer from migraines, and so I was getting the battlefield acupuncture, the 5 pins they put in your ears.
Oh,
I've
nice.
been getting that, and it's amazing. If you haven't had it, it's really good.
Yeah, I've never
And
done acupuncture. It's something I've always wanted to try.
I love it. I swear by the battlefield acupuncture. So all my blood work came back fine.
Hmm.
The CT scan came back fine. And then he basically said, not in these words, but the doctor basically said, this is in your head. There's something going on. They said you have panic disorder, agoraphobia, which is like fear of being in open spaces. I was like, what
Yeah.
the hell? Like, this is weird. and we can
It
give you
never,
some.
it almost never makes sense either.
No, and then here comes the meds. We'll give you
Ugh.
Prozac. And I was like, can you tell me how I do this holistically? And he just looked at me like I had three heads. And I said, how can I do this without medication? I mean, and he said, when you take Prozac, it takes, number one, takes 30 days for it to kind of kick in. And we see if it's going to work for you. And I'm like, okay, number one.
Yeah, and then look
And
at the side effects: depression, suicide,
I
irritable
know,
thoughts. It's like it literally amplifies all of the things you're trying to cure. It just
yes,
doesn't make sense. I was on
no,
Zoloft for a while, and I was a
okay.
goddamn zombie.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, yeah, it makes you a zombie. It makes your brain just kind of shut down and forget about what's going on and the things that you
Mhm.
need to address and the why.
A
It's
lot of
so
people are trying to use it as a solution, and that's what people need to understand. Like, medication is not a solution. It's supposed to ease the pain a little bit to help you find the solution. And
exactly.
so that's why I will say I am against medication. There's some people that need it, and I'm not knocking people who take it.
That,
Like I said, I was on
exactly.
it for a while, but it
Yep.
wasn't for me. And so what
Hmm.
worked for me was camaraderie, something that we all missed, right? I needed to find a purpose. I had no purpose when I got out. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to
Bingo.
do.
That's
And
exactly it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like so if anybody out there is struggling, I promise you, you might not have a purpose. That might be something that is missing. And so that's something that you need to address, and you need to start thinking about, because when once I realized that those pills were not going to work for me, I quit cold turkey, which is not smart. I was
Yeah.
such a dick for like 2 weeks. I went through all kinds of issues. I had panic attacks. I was extremely irritable.
Yeah.
And I started searching for anything that would fucking help. And
Yeah.
so the only things that I found, well, I shouldn't say the only things, because there's a lot, but physical activity was one thing. Because
Mhm.
if you go down into the science of working out, my theory is, if I can't work on this right now, I can
Mhm.
always go work on my physical body. And when you're physically healing, it will eventually lead to mental healing as well,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
your
It's
brain
all
is a
connected.
muscle.
Yeah. It's all
Yeah.
connected. Absolutely.
So after that, I started getting into it a little bit more. And then I started training jujitsu in 2014 again. And then I started hiking a little bit more. There's a couple waterfalls here in Minneapolis,
Hmm.
in
As you're
St.
talking
Paul, like in
about.
the Twin Cities area. There's waterfalls everywhere. Like
Mhm.
when we say it's the land of 10,000 lakes, it means like in the metro alone, there's like 19 lakes that you can go swimming in. They're everywhere.
Wow. How cool.
But there's a waterfall that I used to go to all the time, and I started going there more often. And then, as time went on, 2015, obviously I took a dip.
Hmm.
But once I came out of it, I decided to change everything.
Yeah.
And I ended up going, I ended up learning about Buddhism and started studying a little bit more about the mindset and understanding that
Yeah.
mindset is everything.
It
And so I
absolutely.
started taking control of my mindset. And
Yes.
then I dove into Buddhism pretty deeply.
Hmm.
Um, Now, I wouldn't say I'm a Buddhist. That's not. No, I like meat too much, and I swear too fucking much. Um, but I started learning that it's the mindset. It's the way that you
Yeah.
think. It's the way that you hold yourself. It's the way that you believe who you are. If you believe that you're a good person, you eventually will be a good person. If you start taking over what your mindset is, and
Yes.
tapping and hacking into your brain, and understanding the fact that you don't have to be sad. You don't have to be mad. You don't have to be depressed. Yes, it's a process.
Hmm.
Yes, you can't just snap your fucking fingers and be happy. But if you wake up with a choice every single day and say, today's going to be a good day, and start
Yeah.
thinking with the mindset of your words too, right? And again, I was just listening to Tony Robbins. So um, one of the things that I like to tell people is, stop saying I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to. No, I'm supposed to be dead. In 2015, when I pulled that trigger, I was supposed to die, and I
Right.
didn't die. And so I started to find out what's the reason, right? And WNA, obviously, I have decided is my purpose in life.
Yes.
And I started saying things like, I get to do this. I get to go do this.
I
Even
choose.
laundry, as much as I fucking hate it, I get to do laundry.
Right. Right.
That little change in the way that you live your everyday life, right? That I get to go do this. It can completely change your mood, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with, what's the direction you're going to go. So, you could get hit by a car, right? Think about it like this. You get in a car accident, minor damage, right? Just a fender bender, might need a new bumper eventually. In the big picture, you're alive. You're not hurt. You still have a car. Your car can go from A to B. Yeah, you have a dent in it now, but in the big picture of life, is that little tiny dent in your car, how much is that really going to affect your life?
Yeah.
The way it affects your life is the way you choose to let it affect your life. So if I'm going to get pissed off about that and let it ruin my day, it's like, oh, I got a car accident and my car's ruined and blah, 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 blah. All you're doing is making it worse. You could literally stop and think, oh God, I got in a crash. Thank God I'm okay. We'll get that changed eventually.
Well,
it's
you're
okay.
creating reality. Those
Yes,
thoughts are that you're telling yourself, you're creating your reality. That's
yes.
what
And that's
is.
what epigenetics is all about. And I guarantee you, I want to talk to you a couple weeks from now once you really dive into epigenetics, because you need to, trust me. I want to talk to you again about it, and we can dive into it a little bit more. But all of this will make so much more sense. But epigenetics, I decided back in 2019, epigenetics is the science behind Buddhism. And it's really making you understand that perception is reality. So if you perceive that your life is negative, it is. If you perceive that your life is happy and your life is good and you're full of, you're full of drive and you want to just be the best person you could be, then do it. Live it. You can choose. And I've been telling people all the time, you should be your own hero 5 years from now. 2015, I completely remodeled who I want to be as a person. And lo and behold, it's 5 years later. I'm a president of a nonprofit. I got a nice podcast. I feel like I have a great mindset. I love my mindset. And the sixth principle into improving your state of mind is love yourself. So love yourself. Have pride in what you do. And if you don't have pride in what you do, change what you do. It's not it's not science, right? The process is hard, but actually getting that, putting it out there is easy, right? Like I always say, I'm going to own a campground. That campground is going to fund the nonprofit 100%. I can pay myself out a salary and I can do this full time. I can travel the country. I can help people. I can do whatever I need. If I have a veteran in crisis, yeah. And I'm creating this. I'm going to say this is going to happen. Now, if it doesn't happen by then, in all reality, it's not the end of the world. No, maybe I need another year. Maybe I need another 6 months. It's okay.
You need to evolve your vision and your purpose more.
Yes.
To be able to meet that end result.
Your vision, creating a positive future. You need to create that positive future. And in order to do that, you really need to accept your past. And like what I like to say is when people get out of the military, we have 4 lives, right? 1 to 25, 25, 50, so on. A lot of veterans get out of the military right at about 24, 25, right? So you think about it like this, they're getting out of their first life and they're walking backwards into their new one because they're only looking back at what they did in the military. They're not looking at the understanding that, look, there's a whole nother life ahead of me. I got 3 more lives to live, but you're walking backwards. What happens when you walk backwards and you can't see where you're going? You're going to trip and fall.
You're going to hit stuff. You're going to trip and fall. Yeah.
So once you accept the fact that everything in your past happened, right? If you did something negative in war, or you made some bad choices, or maybe you did some things that make you feel like you're not a good person, all of those things are irrelevant. Yes, your past helps shape you. However, with epigenetics, when you really think about it, choose to be better, choose to change, choose to live a better life and a positive life, and set a path. If you don't set a path, you're just wandering in the woods, right? So when I go hiking, I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's A to B. There's a lot of times I'll go get lost, because, I like the term, not all those who wander are lost. Because a lot of times when you're lost, you find yourself.
That's right.
And I like to disappear into the woods quite a bit. But a lot of times I know where I'm going, right? So I don't always take the same path. Sometimes I go around. Sometimes I go up. Sometimes I veer off. Sometimes I find something completely different. But if you have a destination, you at least are going away. And you know that you're going a certain place. You don't always have to stick to it. Simp or Gumby, you're always flexible. You got to always understand that you're always going to evolve and change. And sometimes that vision is going to change. And that's okay. If you don't complete those goals that you set because you found other goals that you thought were more important and you achieved those goals, you shouldn't be upset with that. You should be happy because you were achieving goals and you're moving
still
forward.
living in your purpose. I mean,
Exactly.
it's still living in your purpose, and there's no harm in just, like you say, I mean, evolving it. And the way I look at it, Ryan used this in one of his workshops, was that if you're on a flight, you're on your journey, right? You're going
Hmm.
from A to B. And if you're halfway through and the pilot says, buckle up, we're going to be going through some turbulence. Do you ever think that you would just jump out of the plane right there because it's going to get a little bit bumpy? No, you're
I
going to
mean, that
stay
sounds
around.
really fun, but no.
Of course you would say that. You're adrenaline junkie, aren't you?
A little bit.
So, you don't think I'm going to jump out of this plane because it's getting a little bit bumpy. You buckle
Hmm.
up, you sit back, you relax, and you get through the turbulence until you get to the other side. And that's your journey. That's how it's going to happen. And we're not going to always foresee that turbulence coming. Like I didn't
Hmm.
foresee anxiety coming at all. But I worked through it, and you did it proves that you can go through this journey, and you can make these changes in your mindset in many different ways.
Mm.
And one way may not work for somebody else,
Yeah.
but I think for the two of us, if we were to collaborate and get our stories out there, where
Mm.
we've taken pretty much about the same path but in different ways,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, you
still
can all get to the same destination, take different
and it
paths,
can still inspire others to say, oh wow, what did they do? Because
Hmm.
I'm there and I've been stuck there, and I don't know how to get out of this. Because a lot of times you don't even, like, I did you know why? Did you know why all that was coming up? I didn't know why that was coming up. But
Hmm.
when I discovered the why, and right in the middle of going through this, I had signed up for a workshop called Alchemy that Ryan teaches. And so in Alchemy, we do very intense, confronting dives into our unconscious mind,
Hmm.
all the way to individuation, where what was going on between 0 to 7 years old, and
Yeah.
you go into your
That's
creativity.
epigenetics.
You go into, see, I mean, it's, yeah,
You're doing it and you don't even know it.
it's so that was pivotal for my healing,
Hmm.
because I learned a lot about myself, and I learned ways to manage, because a lot of us, I mean, I can say like 99% of us have that not good enough, fear, doubt, insecurity, all these things that we think of ourselves, right? That can
Yeah.
get us to the depressive states, that can get us into anxious states. And then what happens? Procrastination. You quit on your vision, you quit on your purpose. And then so what happened? What can you do? I just did not want to pop a pill for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
hoping and praying that this panic was going to go away. And
Hmm.
so I went and did a lot of healing. And these courses, like, I've been doing this for two years now. I've been to the relationships course, patterning. Oh my gosh, Nick, patterning. So there
Yeah.
are, up to 25 steps in your unconscious pattern. And when I went through that was just the icing on the cake, because
Hmm.
you take 4 failed end results. It could be anything: health, fitness, or fitness, health, relationships, business, career, whatever. 4 where you had a failed end result, and then you have a group of people, and they analyze all these steps. You like go step by step in this whole failed end result, and you mind boggling how our unconscious mind, we unconsciously sabotage ourselves
Hmm.
through actions that we take when we're going for something big, when we're going for a big end result. And if you don't know that, like, I know that, I know the 5 prominent steps in my pattern that lead me to a failed end result. And my
Hmm.
failed end result leads me to isolation. So I want to quit, leave where I'm at, leave a relationship, just abandon the mission, basically. And your pattern's always running. So my pattern, my pattern's been running all the time. But now I
Yeah.
recognize where I'm at in my pattern, and it's a matter of, okay, do I go this way and continue on, because that it's going to lead me to the failed end result,
Yeah.
or now that I can recognize it and take this way, now I can still, my pattern's still going to go, but now I can follow my pattern to a successful end result, keeping in mind the end result, the vision of it. I mean, that's
Yeah.
anything. You could be getting into a heated discussion with a colleague, and just flipping a switch to go, hold on, I don't want to end this conversation in a fight and not speaking, for a family member or whatever. I want this end result to be still loving, loving my family, still, loving whoever it is. So it's about choice, and it's about coming, like I said, from your, higher vibration and energy, and saying, I want to go through this, and I want to exhibit love, compassion, and kindness. Love, compassion, kindness. And it's telling yourself, I could say that, but where's it going to lead me? Is it going to lead me to that successful end result, or is it going to lead me, like I said, if you're not speaking to a family member, if you stop speaking to your spouse or your child or whatever it is, right? Or if you have complete a project at work or something like that. So your journey is amazing. Like I said, I watched your story, and that really just connection with people. And you've said that before too, is connecting with people. I love doing that. And you can only connect with people when there's not judgment, and if you come from a space of being kind and loving.
You have to have an open mind, no matter who you're talking to, no matter what
Mind.
you're talking about. And that's why with all this stuff going on right now with politics, I'll engage in a lot of these conversations where I know people are going to get pissed off, and just speak calmly. Have these conversations. Of course, a lot of times it's on Facebook, so people would probably assume I'm being a dick, when it depends on who I'm talking to. If it's a friend, chances are I might be fucking with them. Because although I like to live, a good life, I like to try to be a good person, try to be inspirational. I'm also a huge smartass, so I need to find that balance sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. I got to be careful with that sometimes. It gets me in trouble. But like what you were saying is, the number one issue for so many veterans is, they're pushing away help. They're pushing away help because they don't want to dive into that old shit, because they just want to bury it, right? But the biggest problem is identifying the problem. Right. If you don't identify the problem, the underlying issue, what are those things that are really causing the pain, right? Yeah. And it might not even be from the military. It might be some trauma from a childhood that amplified that and actually made that trauma from the military even worse, right? Yeah. So I was abused as a kid. My stepdad was a piece of shit. Beat the shit out of my mom, beat the shit out of me all the time, tossed me down the stairs. He's just a terrible person. And so a lot of that, I didn't really think about it, right? Until maybe around 2018 is when I really started to change my brain, right? So 2016, I dove into Buddhism, and I kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And I made it a point to, every single day, make it your mission to improve your state of mind every single day. Be on a path to evolution, constantly learn, and use all those times. Again, sorry, I keep quoting Tony Robbins, but you have all that time, right? What are you doing when you're cleaning the house? A lot of times you're just cleaning the house. Put some earbuds in and learn. Watch a video on epigenetics. Watch a video on self-improvement. All of this stuff, it sounded so corny to me a few years ago. Like anybody, I listened to Tony Robbins maybe like 5, 6, no, it was probably longer ago, like 8 years ago. I was like, this guy's a fucking douche. And like, that's all I could think. Like, what an asshole. Like this guy's getting people to jump up and down and cry. Whatever, fuck him. And then, wow, was I a dick. I was completely wrong, because once I started to really listen to what he was saying instead of just judging instantly, right? Like you said, having that conversation with an open mind, I was like, wow, he's saying everything I need to hear. And so I dove into it. And then I dove into Gary Vee. I dove into, I've listened to a lot of stuff from the Dalai Lama as well. There's a lot of different Buddhist monks. What's that?
You dove into Joe Dispenza as well?
Recently, 2018 is one of the, in my 6 principles, look forward to a positive future. I created that as one of my principles after listening to some of Joe Dispenza's stuff. And I loved what he was saying, because you create your positive future. Yes. Why just keep living like, well, tomorrow's going to suck. Oh, tomorrow sucks. Tomorrow sucks. I'm like, no, you get to go do this.
If he said that, it's going to suck.
Yeah, but you know what you could do too? Like when I'm climbing mountains, I'm not sitting there fucking complaining and everything. I'm just smiling like, this sucks. Enjoy it. Embrace the suck. Like we say in the military all the time, embrace it. Because you got to understand that you're feeling that pain. You're feeling that, that push, that pressure. You're tired. You're hungry. but you are alive.
Mhm.
That's such an anomaly on its own.
Yeah.
It's like 7 billion sperm in one ejaculate. You're right. This is weird, I know. But think about it. Like, not only that, but you have to match up with the egg, right? And then you have to survive, the
Right.
birth. You got to survive childhood. Just the fact that we're even alive is such an
Absolutely.
anomaly.
Yeah.
And, you go through
We were
certain things like,
chosen to be here. We were chosen to be alive.
exactly. And and I'm not a religious person.
Mhm.
If I were to say I'm anything, I guess you could say Buddhism, but that's not a religion; it's a way of life.
Well, you're a
So
spiritual person. Right?
yeah, I would say that for sure. I'm
Yeah.
connected with people, right? I
Yeah.
feel like I connect with people's spirits, and it's a little easier for me to connect with somebody once I sit down. Anybody who's listening to this or eventually listens to this will know that when we actually engage in a conversation, I know I can be slightly intimidating, and I know I can dive into some things that you're just like, whoa, I'm not fucking ready to talk about that, because
Right.
I don't fucking like surface level conversation. I hate it. I
Yeah.
fucking hate it. Let's
Yeah.
let's talk about some traumas. Let's talk about war. Let's talk about feelings. Let's talk about all these things that really make you really think and learn something about yourself, because every single conversation I have with somebody, I want them to think about something that we said and learn something about themselves.
But how much of that
Some
is military programming where we're not?
Mhm.
Well, there's always a time and place for that, and that's
Yeah.
not in the place, and that's not. I mean, I was a master resilience trainer, and that I loved that. But when I learned more so, like after I retired,
Mhm.
look at the resiliency program, and I think it's great. The problem is it doesn't seem like many people consume that information for whatever reason.
And
They have a
that's the
resistance
problem.
to consuming
It's
it.
up to the individual to consume the knowledge.
Right, exactly. And so it's consumption, but it's also like I said, how many people want, like I didn't want to talk about this stuff before I retired. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
In the job that you were
There's still
in,
a lot of people that I work with that don't wanna talk about some of these things. It's like, you don't have a
and
choice.
that's okay.
You're on a mountain, bitch. You're not getting away from me.
I believe everyone should, talk about it in their own time.
Yeah, for sure.
However, saying that, it's important to talk about it because that is when you're able to talk about it, you're able to release it, and when you're able to be vulnerable and say it, you go,
Mm.
"Oh, wow, that wasn't so bad." And then if you have, if you come in contact with someone like you or myself or anyone that's willing to be able to hear that information and receive it in a non-judgmental way, and say, "Oh, cool. Well, tell me how you feel. How let's talk about that." And
Mm.
I mean, without and in the military too, it's like you can't get too touchy feely. And here's the thing
Yeah.
I've learned, like especially in the last year, is that platonic love, like I can love you. I can love. It's not
Mhm.
just a romantic love and
Yeah.
connection, but that's what's programmed in our minds to believe that when you love someone, it can only be in an intimate romantic relationship or for your children or for your there's so many like boundaries. They put love in a box and say this
Yeah.
is the only way you can love, and
And
this is
one
the
of the
only
things I'm
way that
doing
you
is trying to
can
break
love.
that as well. Like, if you notice a lot of my posts that are like heartfelt posts, I always say love y'all at the bottom, because I love everybody who I talk to.
Yeah.
It's you can love, like what you said. When I was in Iraq, I had a driver named Sid. Sid, if you're listening, love you. She was amazing. My truck was always super clean. She had to deal with me pissing in a bottle while she's driving down the road. She was amazing. I love Sid, and I still love her. And I don't talk to her all the time. Maybe like once a month, once every 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it is in the military. She just recently retired, and I love Sid. I would bend over backwards for her if she needed me. Even though we don't really talk. You can create those platonic relationships. It's more prevalent than people think. They just don't want to acknowledge it. There's a
Well, we're
lot of
not
people that
able
I
to acknowledge
love.
it though. Like
Hmm.
now we can acknowledge it, but when you
Yeah.
were a cop, when you were active duty, could you walk in a room and be like, "I love you," and people not go, "Ooh, like what do you mean by that? Like, is this an inappropriate,
Yeah.
unprofessional
It's awkward for
relationship?"
some people.
Because my perception is that it's unprofessional and it's inappropriate, and so you kind of
Yeah.
start building that wall to go, "Oh, sorry, I can only like you, and I can only like you from a distance, and I can
Yeah,
only
it's like
help
we're
you."
supposed to disconnect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
I
so
think
when
that's one of the biggest issues for a lot of people too, is because, like, a lot of folks try to disconnect as much as possible because, like,
Mm-hmm.
what if that person dies? That's going to
Mm-hmm.
kill you. I
Yeah.
would rather be so close to somebody that when they die, it breaks my heart than to never be close to that person.
Yeah. And then you
And
start
I
thinking,
think that's a lot of people in the military need to understand.
yeah, yeah. So, I it's now I have covered creativity where, you have your 6 principles and mine are explore, heal, create. So those are
Hmm.
my 3 things that I want to guide people through is explore the unconscious, learn what you don't know. Like we all think we
Yeah.
know ourselves, but there's so much that we don't know about ourselves. And unless you take the time, like you gave you told the story about how you go under a waterfall and you just
Hmm.
sit there and you forget everything around you and you
Yeah, that's
go,
when I'm in my deep meditation.
yes, and you go into a higher place, which
Hmm.
is your higher self. And when you're in that higher place, how much love do you feel? How much happiness and joy do you feel when you're
There,
there?
there's sometimes when I'm meditating, I'm so connected to my feelings where I literally, I call it waking up, but like when I
It is
wake up,
awakening.
I'm literally
It
crying.
it's an awakening. It is.
Yeah.
And then
And
from that,
the funny thing is, like, everyone's like, "Oh, you're crying, fag." Like, a lot of guys still give me shit about that, but I don't care. Here's the thing: I am so connected with human life, with friends, with family, with all the veterans that I talk to. I fucking cry a lot, and I'm not afraid of it anymore because I'm
yeah,
not running from those emotions. I'm so connected with these
exactly.
emotions
Hmm.
because every time I meditate, I go so deep internally. It's I even people who are religious, I will challenge every single one of you. If any one of you guys are religious, when you get down on your knees and you pray or however you do it,
Hmm.
stop and think about it. Sometimes the answers are right inside of yourself. You need to dig inside. So sometimes you need to stop and look inside instead of looking up
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you have to have that courage to understand that you have the answers. Every
Hmm.
person listening to this, everybody that's not listening to this, you have the answers to everything that you want to do in life. You need to unlock it. And sometimes to unlock that, like you said, you need to explore that unconscious mind.
Yeah, it's your intuition. It's
Hmm.
gonna lead you and guide you. And like I said, practicing that. We do a lot of visualization meditations,
Hmm.
and just what's up there. Like when you close your eyes, what is swirling around in there that you can't see if you're just living every day, right?
Hmm.
But when you take the time like you do and to meditate, and you go into the higher space and you start to see things that you haven't seen before. You start to discover, like, why do I feel that? Why am I insecure? Why do I not feel good enough? Oh, right. And you start to make it up, like based on past experiences that you had, even when you were little.
Hmm.
How were your family members towards you? What did that sort of ingrain in you to make you not feel good enough, to make you
Yeah.
fearful? I told a story how I have a mother that she's a wonderful mother. She's very protective of us. So if we wanted to do something that maybe she felt fearful to see us do, it was, oh, you may not want to do that. So what happens? You pull back. That's your mom. You're
Hmm.
going to listen to your mom and you pull back. So that's why holding it when
I was that asshole that said, "Don't touch the stove," and I'm like, I gotta learn from myself. It did
well,
not do well.
yeah, it doesn't it doesn't matter whether you had a great childhood or a terrible childhood.
Hmm.
My husband and I talk about this too, is that we have very different childhoods,
Yeah.
but we can still share the same doubts in ourselves, the
Yeah.
same just things about ourselves that we don't like, or that are negative, and objective. So
I had a
you know
civilian reach out to me. And anybody listening, if you're not in the military and you feel like you need somebody to talk to, you can call me. It doesn't cost me money to talk to people. So I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of civilians that I've been coaching. I guess I have to say, because I'm not a counselor or anything like that. So I have to legally, I say, I'm a coach.
yeah.
Um,
You're an
whatever you want to call it.
influencer.
There you go. Sure. Reached out and said, like, listen, I listened to your story, and she said that she said that she's watched all my podcasts. She's watched pretty much taken in all my content,
Hmm.
and she said, like, you're really helping me. And I was like, oh, thank you. I was like, that means a lot to me. The fact that you
Hmm.
went out of your way to tell me that really helps me. And she's like, but I have a problem. And I'm like, what? She's like, I had great parents. my family was great. Everybody was nice to me. I was taken care of. We weren't rich, but I had everything I needed. I got to go to
Mhm.
sports camps. I have a great job. I've chosen a good life. I'm married. I'm happy, but I'm fucking depressed. And I was like, okay, again, Tony Robbins, what's your blueprint? One of the things I asked her, what was your blueprint? When you were a kid and you stopped and thought about who you want to be as a person, what was
Mhm.
your blueprint? And she's like, eventually we got through to it, and she was way off of her blueprint. So she's not wasn't living the exact life that she wanted
Yeah.
to. She wanted a little bit more exploration. And so I told her, I was like,
Mhm.
change your blueprint. It's that easy. And I was again having a conversation with Mara this morning, my girlfriend. Um, I talked to her. I talked about her a lot because we have a lot of my growth is because of her, because we have a lot of
Yeah.
these conversations. One of the
Yeah.
things we were talking about Charlie, my youngest, my autistic child,
Mhm.
and we were talking about blueprints. And I was saying 2015 is when she got the diagnosis that she was autistic.
Mhm.
Now we knew something was wrong. We figured it was autism, but once we got that piece of paper that said that she was autistic and she had cognitive, essentially mental retardation. We're not allowed to say that anymore, but cognitive, uh, developmental something or other, whatever.
Mhm.
So that hurt. It stung, and it's because my blueprint was not going to be fulfilled. Now, it's not fair to say this is what my kid needs to turn out to be, but we all have an
Yeah.
idea how we want our kids to be, right?
Right.
And so the reason why I love Charlie so much, even though she just drew like 7 fucking smiley faces on my wall with permanent marker, um, fuck her. Um, I laugh. Everything she does, I laugh. Like the other day, I shared a photo on my Facebook. I walked in a room and she shit on the floor and like put Legos in it, and it looked like a fucking shit race car. So I was like, I could be pissed
I
right now.
saw that. I didn't
Yeah, I
realize
was like, I could be
that
pissed
was
right now or
so
just take a
funny.
picture and just fucking laugh. I'm like, Charlie, god damn it. And I just start smiling. I was like, I gotta take a picture of this. So I
Mhm.
try to share a lot of the bullshit as well. A lot of
Right.
folks who have been following me for the last few years understand that when I am depressed, I'm not afraid to say it. And I will say, hey, listen, I'm feeling a little depressed today. And then I talk a little bit what's going on and say, listen, it's okay to feel this way. You need to
Mhm.
understand that it's not permanent. You're gonna have those, it's gonna ebb and flow, your mindset.
Right.
Um, so anyway, talking to her, I said I had to change my blueprint of what Charlie was gonna be. So now she's never gonna talk. She doesn't talk.
Mhm.
Um, she's never gonna have a job. She's never gonna have a boyfriend. I mean, that's you never know there, but
I was just
um,
gonna say, do you know that definitively? Like, do you
yeah.
absolutely know? So
Well,
it's
with the job and talking, yeah, she'll probably never
yeah,
talk or
well,
have a job
yeah,
again.
with the
But
boyfriend part. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. 6 feet social distancing. But no, I had to change my blueprint, and I had to understand that my daughter is not going to be the way I wanted her to be, and that's okay. And so
Mhm.
now my goal with her is just to make sure she's happy,
Just to
and
love
that's all
her.
I can do.
That's
hmm
it.
Yeah. So
Yep.
like there's usually a couple hours during Wednesday and Thursday that I have her that I'm doing WNA stuff, and she's just running around and screwing off. I can't let her in the backyard. She's a goddamn escape artist. That little girl's like Houdini. She'll be like 6 blocks down the road in like 2 seconds. But a lot of it has to do with changing your blueprint. If you're not living the life that you wanted to, like when I was a pizza delivery driver, hated my
Mhm.
life. I was a bad dad. I was a bad husband. I was just a shitty person overall. I changed my blueprint, who I wanted to be in
Mhm.
2005 or
Mhm.
2015.
Interesting.
And I decided, like, this is what I want my blueprint to be. And I changed it. And I made a plan. I said, this is what I'm going to do. And then I decided to live a life of constant learning. No matter
Mhm.
what I'm doing, I want to live a life of constant self improvement. So if I'm not improving even just a little bit, you know, I was having a talk with Steve. Steve's listening right now from X22 Adventures. He's the one that you and him are always commenting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always nice to have you guys on. Um, but Steve is starting his own nonprofit, and I'm doing whatever I can to help him, and I will make sure that he thrives because yes, when he starts getting funding, that's funding that
Mhm.
maybe I could be getting, but that doesn't matter in the nonprofit world
Right.
because what we're doing is helping
Helping each
veterans.
other. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Not
if I help
competition, but
him,
collaboration.
exactly, there's no competition. If anybody ever tries to compete with me, I will not work with them at all because I am not in the business of competing. I'm in the
Yes.
business of helping veterans. So if I help, me and Steve, if we do some kind of benefit and he takes home more than I do, it's a success because he's going to go and help other veterans with that.
Mm-hmm.
So in turn, I get to steal a little bit of that happiness, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I found feeds my soul, is helping other people.
Yep.
And I know all of my love languages now, and
Mm-hmm.
for anybody who hasn't read the 5 love languages, go fucking buy that book. It'll completely change the way you talk to people and receive conversations, and it might make you understand people, not just like personal related, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, like father,
Oh wow.
friends, like me
Yeah.
and you. If I know your love language, me and you can conversate a little bit easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with like relationships. It's just, you're a person, I'm a person. How do you receive things and how do you give things, and then vice versa?
Yeah.
If you understand each other's mindsets, it's so much
Mm-hmm.
easier.
So going back, like you said, you told your story about Charlie, right? That's her
Hmm.
name, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie.
Chucky, we call her Chucky because she's a psycho.
Like you kind of gave up like what you had in your mind of how you wanted her to be, and then you
Yep.
just learned that you just wanted to love her. So that is not in that situation, but can't that go for just people in general,
Yeah.
especially in relationships? So relationship with your children, yep, check, you got that. But in relationship with your partner as well, because how
Hmm.
many times do we have these expectations, and I'm not saying I haven't done it, because I have, but you have these little checklists of expectations you have of your partner,
Hmm.
and then you want them, like, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of girls that say, "Oh, he'll change," or "I'll change him," or the guy might say, "Well, I'll change." How about you just understand and love them? Like, I'm not saying anyone should stay in abusive relationships, mental,
Oh,
emotional,
I'm
physical.
really big on leave if you're unhappy.
Right.
It's a lot of people don't like hearing that, but if you come to me with a relationship thing and I give you all of these things and it all leads to you being unhappy because of the person you're with,
Mhm.
leave.
Well, you
You're
just
not
ask
stuck
them,
with somebody
do
the
you
rest of
want to
your
be
life.
with that person? There's one simple question. Do you want to be with them?
Hmm.
And if you say yeah, if they say yes, and you go, okay, cool. Then why do you have all these expectations? Why
Hmm.
why do you have a checklist that person has to meet every day? If you truly love them and understand, because people act from their wounds. So if
Mm.
you're having an argument or a disagreement, it's like ego fighting ego. It's the unconscious mind fighting the unconscious mind. And then because that's why don't take things personally. That's really
Hmm.
hard to do, though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's it's hard to master that and manage it, but it's possible. So it's
Yeah.
simple, but it's not easy. And I've done pretty well. I'm not perfect, but I definitely have leaps and bounds from where I used to be. And you can look back on you could probably look back on your career and go, wow, if I know then what I know now, things could have been a little bit differently. Not in
Yeah.
regret, but that's still all learning, isn't it? When you go back and go, oh wow, that's what happened. Oh, okay. And
Yeah,
you
and
go,
that's why I think that, couples should talk about past relationships with each other. Like me and Mara often talk about, some of the things that happen in our past relationships because we're learning about each other. Believe
mhm,
it or not, folks, the people that you're with were probably with somebody before you. So, the fact that people get so pissed off if you talk about an ex or something like that. I get if it's every day, that's understandable.
right.
But you should talk about, hey, this is what happened in my last relationship and this is what bothered me, this is what made me happy. Because when she tells me a story about a time where she was happy with her ex, I love hearing that because I love her and I want her to be happy. And I like the fact that she has happy memories. That's a good thing.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
it's not a jealousy thing. You need to let go of your ego on that standpoint. But that open conversation is so important. And when you really talk about expectations, like we have a podcast called The Rebel Perspective.
mhm,
Um, and we talk about just about anything, but we did one on relationship expectations and relationships.
mhm,
And so you should initially say, hey, these are my expectations. One of the things I told her is, if things start getting in the way of Warrior's next adventure, we need to reevaluate, because Warrior's next adventure is me. This is
mhm.
my love, my heart, my soul, my tears. I put everything into this. WNA,
Yeah,
I am WNA, and that's
yeah.
not going to change for anybody. She's extremely supportive. She's an awesome person, but we had those conversations about expectations. Like, neither one of us want to get married ever. Neither
Mhm,
one of us want to have kids. We both have 2 girls, so we're good.
mhm,
Um, but a lot of it has to do with that conversation, right? If things start to go sour, you should stop and evaluate and understand the fact that, hey, we're kind of swaying from the expectations. How do we get back?
Yeah.
But a lot of it has to do with identifying the problem.
Yeah. But would you agree though that a lot you have to heal insecurities within yourself
Yes.
and understand, like, okay, I'm jealous. Why am I jealous? Like, why am I being this way? Because I
Hmm.
mean, is jealousy going to eventually lead to um, a failed relationship? It
Yeah.
could. I mean, it could. So I think healing those things within yourself and then understanding that others have those things that they're healing at the same time. Because
Hmm.
if you have all this stuff, it does the other person, they're going to have some stuff too. And so I think dysfunctional relationships where you have dominant and submissive, like
Yeah.
one person is dominant over the other one, the other one's like, okay, whatever you say. And then,
Some people
how,
don't mind that though.
how
It's to each their
well,
own.
do they really?
I
Do they
know a
really?
lot of people who are like that. I've met
Yeah,
a girl. We had that conversation. They have a great relationship, but he's
yeah,
very dominant. He makes the decisions, and she's just cool with it. She loves it.
yeah.
She calls herself the OG housewife, and she's super happy. They got 2 kids. They're
Or
great.
is that synergistic? I mean, is that kind of how they operate? I mean, that's what he brings to the table,
Yeah,
and she's like,
yeah, it
okay,
is,
cool.
and that's why I say it's not. I don't think it's always a negative thing, right?
Yeah,
Now, if
yeah.
one person, if the female say, because it usually is the male who's dominant. Let's say a female is not happy with that. That's a
I don't
problem.
know about that. You say,
Well, it
I think
depends. It
that's,
depends on the situation.
yeah, I think
There's a
there's
lot of guys, oh,
energy.
happy life, happy wife, happy life. I hate that shit because your happiness is important too. And that's
Yeah,
that's one thing. And this isn't like I'm not anti-women by any means. Any means.
yeah.
I just don't think there's enough men sticking up for men and saying that men should get to that point where your happiness is important as well. You shouldn't
Mhm.
have to break your back every single day for your family. You should also
Yeah.
understand that you need time for you. So when I have veterans say, yeah, I'd love to come to an event with you. Let me check with my wife. I was like, give me your wife's phone number now. Let me call her. I promise you in 5 minutes,
Well, or
she's going to
just
say,
say,
you need to
hey,
go.
but bring her with you.
Male
How about
and
just
vice versa as well.
bring her with you? Yeah, yeah. So,
And it's the same thing. It goes the other way too. So like say if Mara wanted to go on like a 3 week long thing, I would never stop her ever. And we would just talk about it. Like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna miss you. Yeah,
mhm,
I might be. She tends to say like she doesn't always check my social media when I'm gone because I do all the media for WNA myself, but she
mhm,
likes to see things first. That's one thing we talked about and we acknowledged that. So
yeah,
now like whenever I am out hiking and I see something beautiful and we had this conversation, I was like, is it okay for me to share things with you? Because I want to share these pictures and I love sharing beauty with somebody that I love and I don't want there to be jealousy. She's like, look, I'm not jealous. I just want to see it before everybody else does. I was like, that's totally fine.
it's
So
a
now I
boundary.
take
That's
pictures.
cool. She's
Yeah, we
setting
had the
a boundary.
conversation.
That's all it is.
And
Yeah.
that's why our relationship is so strong because we talk about these kind of things. And
Mm,
it might seem stupid and childish, but now I know that listen, if I take a picture and I find it beautiful, I want to share it with her. And so I send it to her first and then I'll post about
mhm.
it later.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
she
awesome.
pretty much sees and hears everything first.
Yeah, like I said, it's that synergy. It's supporting each
Hmm.
other and being sort of two entities that are, if you're a circle, you're touching, you're not overlapping, you're not
Yeah.
far apart. Don't have distance, but it works because, like you said, she has things going on, you have your own thing going on,
Hmm.
and if what you have going on separately, you're completely happy and joy, and that's your bliss. It's going to work because you're going to be happy together as well. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I just,
You
yeah,
definitely need to analyze your insecurities. I think everybody needs to and understand that
how
you're
tough
not a
is
bad
that?
person if you have
It's
some insecurities.
but it's really it's tough to, and I think that's where people get stuck because um I have a friend where she says, you know what, I hate traditional therapy because
Hmm.
she says, I feel like they unpack everything and then go, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, instead of going, okay, let's unpack this and let's work through it, and let's self discovery. Like that's one thing that I say is
It's
self.
almost like taking a bunch of boxes out of a truck, but not unpacking the boxes.
There you go. Yeah,
That
you just
that's
kind of leave it there
that's
in the
why I
curb.
like to dive deeper.
And you're looking at them like, well, all right, well, I know what that is. That's insecurity, that's
Yeah.
self-doubt, that's fear. But what do I do now?
Yeah.
Why am I
How do
not
we
wanting to
open those
unpack this?
boxes?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Nah, I love your mindset on a lot of this stuff. I actually have to get going. I got to pick up my sister from the airport. My daughter has been gone since May, maybe. I haven't seen my oldest kid in like 2 months,
Oh
so
my
I get to go pick her up and see her at the airport. I'm
God,
excited.
sure. But the summit, we have to have more
Oh,
discussion.
God damn it. Okay. Okay, real quick. So me and Elijah were talking. For people who don't know, me and Elijah Best, he's from Vet Boss, super inspirational dude. If you get a chance, go back and listen to that podcast. I think it was great. We were talking, and I've had this idea for a little while for a veteran summit, kind of like Tony Robbins does summits, something like that, but for veterans. And what we're gonna
For
do
veterans, by veterans. I mean, it's
Yes.
yeah.
And one thing I want to do is, you have people like Marcus Luttrell, who is a speaker, but he makes, and this isn't a knock on him. This is awesome for him. I'm very happy for him, but he makes a lot of money when he does speeches, right? So what I want to do is not call in big speakers. I want to have a bunch of people like us who are, maybe not super well known, but I think have great ideas.
Yeah.
And I want to bring a bunch of these speakers together and do like a 3-day event. So Thursday, Friday, we do. They'll be in my head. This is my dream. I'll throw it out there real quick. We have a room full of booths, right, with informational booths. So you got a bunch of nonprofits, businesses, therapists who are all veteran owned, veteran run, veteran operated.
They're there to network.
Yes, it's a networking event, right? But then we'll have a bunch of speeches as well. And so I have people like me, have people like you come out and do a speech. So it's going to be called, something summit by Warriors Next Adventure. So
The only
I'm
thing
gonna. What's that?
is VetNet. VetNet.
VetNet. That's I like that.
Vet network.
See, like I said, so one of the things I want to do is have everybody. We're going to have everybody throw in their ideas for what to call it, right? So I've had some very good ideas so far. What I want to do is have everybody, who wants to, vote for the name, right? Throw in their votes. We'll have an email that you can send it to. I have a few ideas on how we're going to do that. But anyway, so whatever name we end up going with, that veteran is going to get flown to the event. They're going to get put up in a room. They get to attend the event. We're not going to have like backstage stuff. This isn't like, we're just all going to be mingling together. I don't like the whole green room aspect. That's stupid to me. I don't like the separation. And then everybody can bring their stuff with their booths. And here's one thing that I get irritated with some of these events. It's like you can't accept donations and you can't sell merchandise. Fuck that. If you have merchandise, bring your merchandise. You can sell your merchandise. People can give to
a nonprofit. If you have merchandise,
exactly,
people buy.
exactly.
You're supporting the nonprofit. So
and I get why they do that, and they're still great, and I'll still attend those, and I think they're amazing. But if somebody wants to donate to that nonprofit right then and there, they should be able to. And so we can do all these speeches, and then after the speeches, the person goes out and they can have like a conversation. So take like a 30-minute break, bring in another speaker. I haven't really decided. And again, we're going to do a board. We got to decide how long each speaker is going to have. And then on Saturday, wherever we decide to do it, I'm going to do a big, hiking event with Warriors Next Adventure. So let's say we get 250 people there. That's, dreaming big. But I want to take everybody. Let's go do something together. Let's get out and go hiking. Everybody take a battle buddy, and we can get together and we can start thinking, and we can go do something fun together. And then everybody flies out Sunday or something like that.
Yeah. And we can talk about this later on because I know you have to go. But even a virtual one.
Oh, we're doing another podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah,
we got a lot more we need to talk about.
Yeah, virtual event. We still bring on the speakers, but they have 15 minutes go. And then you bring on the next, And so I think
and I want to live stream it too. All of the speeches, I'd love to live stream it. So the people who can't make it, I want them to be able to see it. And we are going to charge a fee because we have all kinds of, it's going to cost money for this thing, but it's going to be affordable. And if it comes to the point where we have somebody who like thinks they really need this, we'll work something out. And I don't want to start getting into that because it's, again, a lot of this is going to go towards donations, but what I want to do is pay every single speaker equally, no matter what. Nobody's going to get paid more, and that's going to go to the actual speaker themselves, not their nonprofit. So, like, you'll actually get, say, everybody gets like $50 or something. I'm hoping that that's low, but it'd be nice to.
It's just something to say, hey, thanks for your time. So I wanted to tell you before you go that I do offer, different programs for my consulting. And that a part of whatever I make from that, I want to donate to Warrior's Next Adventure.
Oh, you don't got to do that.
I don't have to, but I'm going to. Hello.
Well, I appreciate it. It's the whole Minnesota thing. Say no once and then say okay.
Okay.
I guess I run a nonprofit. I got to stop turning down donations.
Yeah. So I do,
well, thank you. That's
I do. I can do coaching for individuals or groups. So if a group of people want to go on this journey of explore, heal, create, and they want to do it as a group.
Do you do Zoom meetings?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I can pretty much tailor it to whatever anyone wants. But it's cool because it's a self-discovery journey, and you can do meditations with each other, just like I was taught to do meditations with someone else and to go into our higher selves, our intuition, and serve others. So you're not just getting the service for yourself, but you're able to use that to serve others as well, whether that's your friend or a random group. But anything I make from the services that I offer, I will donate a part of that to Warriors Next Adventure for our summit.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. So what's the best way for people to contact you? On Facebook?
Go to Facebook. Yeah, whatever's scrolling on the bottom there. Find me on Facebook. I am at Cup of Creativity, just like it's spelled, ada21@gmail.com. Send me an email if you're interested in some coaching sessions or group coaching as well. Like I said, for me, it's the experience that I've had and what I've learned. And so helping people take them through transition. Nice. That could be marriage to divorce, military, military, civilian, any kind of major transition like that, where you're going along and then you just want to quit. And don't quit. Let's discover why you're having feelings. Let's manage those and heal them. And then let's take you on a journey of creating what you really want and what you really love.
Well, I absolutely love your mindset, and we are definitely doing another podcast. There's so many people that I've talked to so far. I was like, I got to talk to them again. Like you, Elijah, Jeremy. There's a lot of people that I'm just like, I got to keep doing this. I love doing this podcast. This is something that makes me feel good because I get to create something that may be valuable to some people. So yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I just really appreciate you for all the comments and everything like that, and offering to donate some of your proceeds. Thank you so much, and we will talk very soon.
Okay, sounds good. Take care.
All right, all right. Talk to you later.
Okay, bye.